Hello, folks. This is Piano Man Steve Lundgren, founder of the Piano Man Approach online piano course. Thank you for joining me for Free Lesson Friday, which we do every Friday, as the title might give away, here on my YouTube channel. So most of the time what I have for you is either a song demonstration video or some kind of a technique that I want to show you on the piano. Today's a little different. Today I have more of a philosophical piece of advice for you. And it's, to me, it's something that everybody should consider as they're going about practicing. Because most of the people that I work with, and I don't think this would change it if we were dealing with kids either, but the people that I'm working with tend to be either anywhere from, say, their late teens and early 20s all the way to, I've got some students all the way into their 90s. And I would say that the biggest challenge that most of them have is they want to get the most out of their practicing in the shortest amount of time. And the way that you do that is that you kind of have to be centered around a few basic ideas. So what I have here for you are 3 questions you need to ask yourself before you sit down to practice anything. And you should ask it pretty much every time you sit down, no matter what it is you're going to practice. Because the answers to these 3 questions are sort of like a North Star that can guide you on the path in the right direction. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, really quickly, before we get into the content here, if you enjoy my content, you know, this kind of material and the techniques and the song demos and the cover performances, all that good stuff, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it and comment and all that good stuff. Really helps me beat the algorithm, and I appreciate it very much. Now that we've got that out of the way, and of course, please come to the pianomanapproach.com and check out all of the good things that we have to offer over there in my courses, and you can sign up for my free weekly content there and all kinds of good stuff. Read my blog. So now that we've got that out of the way, and I've got all that down in the video description, let's talk. What are these 3 questions? Well, question number 1 is, what do you really want to do on piano? Now, that may sound a little trite, but seriously, there's a lot of things that you can do. What's your goal? What is your goal with this thing? Like, what do you hope to be able to sit down and do? I can tell you what mine was. See, I was really inspired when I saw Billy Joel and Elton John on TV. And at first I just thought, well, I want to be able to play like them. But really what it morphed into was, I want to be able to sit down and quickly be able to play pretty much any kind of, any popular song. I was into popular music. I know something about jazz. I can fake my way through jazz and do a competent job, not a great job, in a jazz band. And I've played in jazz combos and high school jazz band, college jazz band. So I'm not terrible at it, but I'm not an expert at it, and it's not really where my greatest interests lie, except maybe in like standards, which were popular music in their day, show tunes and the crooner stuff. But like hardcore jazz, not really my thing. Classical music, as much as I appreciate it, I never had this burning desire to be a virtuoso at it. I just never. That didn't light a fire under me and make me want to become a piano player. So that wasn't something that I was terribly interested in. I wasn't like into new agey, unusual stuff like Yanni and other stuff. Not that I don't enjoy a lot of that music. I enjoy hearing it, and I would enjoy seeing concerts by these various different genres, jazz, classical, new age, all that stuff. But it wasn't what was calling me forward, right? And even more specific with me, I was already a singer. I cannot remember a time in my life when I wasn't singing. So what I wanted to do was play and sing. And I wanted to do the music that I heard on the radio. It was that simple. So pretty much everything from like the big band era and Frank Sinatra that had a singer all the way forward to the present day with Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran and those folks and everything in between. And I really loved the 70s and the 80s in particular. Loved rock, pop, country, folk, you name it. I loved the 60s. I liked the 90s, but 70s and 80s were my absolute favorite. So over time, I got to really understand what I wanted to be able to do on piano. You need to ask yourself, what do I want to do on piano? Do I want to play the melody? Do I want to accompany myself singing? Do I want to play in a group? Do I want to, a lot of folks want to join like a worship group at their church or something like that. A lot of people want just to have a little bit of fun in the privacy of their own home. They want to be able, some people want to be able to read music off of a page. Some people are very interested in classical music or jazz music or lounge music or new age music. So you need to ask yourself, what is it that I actually want to do? Because different types of instruction and different types of practicing are going to lead you in the direction of what you want to do. So if you want to shorten the pathway, if you want to waste less time when you're practicing, you want to be clear what it is you're trying to accomplish. Some people want to become kind of a jack of all trades. That's fine too. But the point is, I don't want you to think about anything that you could be practicing, any technique or any song or anything like that as being good or bad to practice. What I want you to think about it is it in alignment with what my goals are on the instrument? So that's the first thing. Be clear. What is it that you want to do on this? Be as clear as you can be, and then allow yourself to get more clear as time passes on. Question number 2, after you have identified what it is you want to do, ask yourself, will what I'm about to practice serve that vision? Will what I'm about to practice serve that vision? This is a question that I want you to ask because it matters what you're being told to practice from your mentors. All right? I don't want to criticize any piano teacher, to be honest with you, because I think every single instructor out there has something really special and unique to offer. And I think they all have valuable things to offer. And I think every one of us, me included, is well-meaning. But we all come from our own particular biases. And only you know, and it's not something you can always put together logically, but only you can feel, you can sense whether what we're doing is a match in some way to what you're trying to accomplish. Okay? So what I found was I had some very, very good teachers, especially early in my life, and the only thing that they knew was how to teach me to read notes on a staff and eventually work myself through, the different piano books like John Thompson, book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, and eventually maybe get into then more hardcore classical stuff like Beethoven sonatas and those kinds of things, Bach inventions. And, they were, I had 2 or 3 that honestly are kind of world-class piano instructors. The problem was what they knew how to teach and what I wanted to be able to do were not congruent visions. Okay? Now, I want to make something very clear. It is not as if there's no value in learning something from one type of music for your desire to play another type of music. All right? Finger exercises and scales, for example. it's not like it doesn't help you. Even if you're me and you want to just mostly play accompaniment piano, so you're going to do a lot of chords and rhythm patterns, you're not doing a disservice to yourself by doing some of this. Okay? But that was not going to inspire me to fall in love with practicing the piano. And if that was all I was ever being told to do, and none of my repertoire, nothing that I was ever being assigned to work on was in the realm of what I really wanted out of this thing, right? Then what happened is that I started to imprint on piano as being boring, right? The thing is, you need to fall in love with playing, because nobody's going to get good at anything without time and application. And the only way that you put in the time and application is if you're enjoying yourself along the way, right? So what you want, that's why we have to identify what is it that we want out of this instrument first, so that then we can find a way to either identify what it is that we're practicing is going to help us, how that's going to help us do this. Or we can say, this is just going to make me feel bored. It's going to make me feel resentful. And there's not an effort being made by my mentor to tie this back to what matters to me. Because I promise you, if you don't see a pathway to what you really want, you won't stick with it. And it's far more important that you stick with it over a period of time than it is that you get any one particular hack or technique. Because let's face it, you're not going to be a master of any technique just because you hear about it. You're going to have to practice yourself into mastery. And that's where sometimes some finger exercises or some scales or that kind of thing will build some dexterity that will give you the raw material to be able to do the technique that's the perfect hack for what you're trying to do. But again, if you're not being shown a pathway from what you're being asked to do and how it ties back to what you really want to do, it becomes unsustainable. You're going to fall off the wagon and you're going to get nowhere. You can get enormously far in a year when you know what you want and you're practicing things with a philosophical thread from what it is you're doing to what it is you're trying to accomplish, right? But you really, really have to find that congruency in order to actually stick with it for a year, right? So that's the main thing. Will what I'm about to practice serve that vision? The third question I want you to ask yourself is, how do I feel emotionally, good or bad? Now, this sounds a little airy-fairy, but this is maybe the most important of all three questions. All right? Let me explain. What we were just talking about is you have to fall in love with practicing if you're going to practice. If you're actually going to practice consistently, you have to kind of fall in love with practicing. You're not going to fall in love with anything if the majority of the time that you sit down to do it, you're in a bad emotional space. Because what you're going to start doing is, in your mind's eye, whether you mean to or not, you're going to start associating this with that bad feeling emotion. And when that's kind of what it's tied to, man, haven't you ever noticed that when you're having a bad day, everything just gets worse and worse and worse and worse? It's like you get the worst traffic, people are the least considerate, you can't find the parking space that you want. Just nothing that should be easy is easy. It's just all a little bit harder. Well, guess what? When you sit down in that headspace at the piano, that is exactly how it's going to feel. Nothing's going to make sense. You're just prone to be frustrated. You're already in that zone. So every little mistake you make, you're going to be critical of yourself. You're going to be frustrated. And you might even start saying ridiculous things to yourself like, to hell with this, I'm not talented enough. That is not true, but it is something that you are prone to believe when you're in a really bad emotional space and you sit down and try to practice, especially when you're in the earlier part of your journey. Like, I've been doing this long enough that if I have a bad day and I try to gut through playing when I'm in a bad space and I have a rough go of it, that one experience isn't going to throw me off the wagon because I have enough life experience now to know, no, I just had a bad day. But if you're fairly early in your journey with piano and you do that too many times, you're going to assume it's because you can't ever pick it up. You're going to assume it's because you have no talent and that you just weren't cut out for this. And that's not true. That is not true. You cannot overcome feeling miserable when you're trying something that you don't have a lot of experience with yet. So I think it's very, very important to sit down and play mostly when you're already feeling kind of good, when you're feeling content, when you're feeling peaceful, when you're feeling happy, energetic, eager, passionate, the whole range of good emotions. That's a good time to sit down and play. And when you're feeling like crap, please take a deep breath and say, you know, it's okay to distract myself until I feel a little better before I come back to the piano. Because all practice is not equal. It just isn't. That's a popular thing. Everybody wants to tell you that practicing the piano is somehow this linear experience. You get a little better every day, and you go from here to here and here and here and here and here and here and here, and then eventually but that really isn't how it works. The way it looks most of the time is that you're here and it feels like you're getting nowhere. And then suddenly one day it's like it clicks and your fingers get it and your brain gets it and you go bloop. And then you're here. Same thing, bloop. Okay. That's how it tends to go. Now, since that's how it tends to go, you tell me what's most conducive to you continuing to come back to the piano and practicing. Good mood, hopeful, eager, believing that something's going to pop here. I haven't felt a lot of progress yet, but I'm kind of enjoying, hammering it out. I trust that my brain's on it. I trust the muscles are figuring it out. And then bloop, oh my gosh, that's delightful, isn't it? Same thing. Good mood, eager, hopeful, looking forward, blah, blah, blah. And then one day clicks and you have a breakthrough. Do you think that the person who's in a good mood is likely to stick with it? Or do you think person in a bad mood comes, I'm getting nowhere. This sucks. This is BS. I'm terrible at this. Screw it. I'm done. Right? That's what tends to happen. And it's not that they did anything wrong. It's that they just misunderstood that while practicing matters, so does the clarity with which your mind can process what you're doing. So, and they're bucking that current a little bit. So anyway, I think it's very, very important. How do I feel emotionally? Try to only practice when you're feeling good already. 2 or 3 sessions of that will take you much farther than 5 sessions or 6 sessions of feeling bad while you're doing it. The action isn't the only thing that matters. The mind, the way you're thinking, it matters. And then be clear. Get as clear as you can. What is it that you're trying to achieve on piano? Talk to your mentors about it. Whether it's me or, like any of a bunch of other teachers that are on YouTube and out in the online space, or if it's an in-person teacher, find out, are you a good fit for me? Like, here's what I want to be able to do. Is your material going to help me with that? Sometimes the answer is, yeah, you're a perfect fit. Sometimes the answer, because I get this question from people, and sometimes the correct answer is, I don't think I'm the only thing that's going to help you. I think that part of what you're trying to achieve is a really good fit for what I teach. And if you like my style, then you should roll with it. But you need to be willing to fill in the gaps with other people that are more specialized in certain areas. And sometimes the correct answer is no. What you want to do is definitely not in my zone of expertise, and it would be a lie to say anything else. And I wish you well, but I don't think you're going to get what you're looking for from what I do. It's okay. Have those conversations, and then make sure they know what you're trying to achieve, so that when they tell you, hey, go do this and do this and do this and do this, if you don't see how that's going to help you with what you want to do, maybe they do, and maybe they can explain it. Because I'll tell you what, a lot easier for me when I don't do finger exercises every day, but sometimes I need to strengthen myself. Sometimes I need to clean something up in order to really, really get a difficult song under my fingers, because I have a performance coming up or something, or I'm going to do a YouTube cover and I want to get it really clean. And sometimes not just working on the song, but working on some finger exercises and some scales and some other things will help me clean that song up. Okay, great. That's great. It's a lot easier for me to do that when I know it's in service of what I really want to do. But if you're just asking me to do it in general, it bores me to tears. Some people enjoy it. I have friends who love to sit down and do that every day, and that's great, and I have no issue with somebody who really, really enjoys that kind of thing. It's a little bit like practicing push-ups. You're not going to use push-ups when you're playing basketball, but it does work muscles that help you play basketball, right? So point is, there's not a right or a wrong way to do anything, but it's important for you to know, what are you trying to get out of this, and how is it that what you're about to do, how's that going to help you serve that vision? And do you feel in a good enough headspace that you're going to be productive, right? Because remember, at the end of it all, it's more important that you stay with it than it is that you practice anything in particular. Time in the game makes you better. It just does. Time in the game makes more things more clear, but you are not going to stay in the game if you're miserable. And if you start to imprint on this experience that it makes you feel miserable, right? So don't start out by feeling miserable and then coming to the piano, especially if you're fairly new to it, and thinking that that's actually going to fix it. No, what it's going to do is it's going to exacerbate your existing miserable feelings. And then you're going to blame piano, and then you're going to blame yourself, and you're going to say a bunch of stuff that just is complete BS, like you're not talented and all of that, and you're going to give it all up. And then you're not going to learn at all. And that's tragic, because there's a lot of joy that you're missing out on, for erroneous beliefs. And I would understand why you would think those things. I'm just trying to help you avert that misunderstanding. Okay? So, just quick recap. What are the 3 questions? What do you really want to do on piano? 2, how's what you're about to do, how is what you're about to practice going to serve that vision from number 1? And 3, how are you feeling emotionally? Try not to practice unless you're already feeling good. And try to have some sense of how what you're practicing is going to help you serve what you really want to do. And try to be as clear as you can about what it is that you're really trying to do. When you do those 3 things, your practicing not only becomes a lot more fun and a lot more fulfilling, but it becomes easier to do even the nuts and bolts stuff that's maybe less glamorous in and of itself. And you go a lot farther, a lot faster, and you stay in the game because you feel yourself moving toward what you really set out to move toward. Okay? I hope that you have found this to be useful and insightful, And I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. I'm going to get out of here for right now, and you can go into the mountains and meditate on this, eat some granola. Anyway, but thank you. And I make light of it here, but these are really important questions, and they've served my career as a piano player very, very well. And I hope that maybe they'll help you out as well. Okay? So, before I get out of here, let me just remind you of my personal mantra that we live by over at the Piano Man Approach, and that is, if you're not having fun when you're making music, you're doing it wrong. And I'll see you on the next Free Lesson Friday, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.